Okay, welcome everyone. This is our very first lab session. So every week we're going to be having a lab session. And I want us to begin by looking at some of these MCQs. These questions are from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn offers a certification in SQL. It's just to test your knowledge, right? So the questions you see right here on this PDF document are the ones I got from LinkedIn. So I want us to go over a couple of those that we can actually solve right now, right? At the level of the training based on the concepts we've covered so far. So what role does the word inventory play in this command? So far we're looking at the select statement. And this is an example of a simple select statement. We have the select and the from. I'm going to give you some time to go over this and identify the correct option. So what role does the word inventory play in this command?
I would say C is the schema, I guess. The schema.
Yeah, excellent. So schema, inventories is a schema. This is definitely the concept we're studying right now. This is a two-part object name. And so you have to address the name of the table and also specify the subfolder or subcontainer in which it is located. That's the concept of the schema. So books is a table name, and the table books is located in the inventory schema. So this is very important. Right, so let's go over the options one after the other. It instructs the query engine to join books table to inventory table. So books is a table, through inventory is not a table. That's why this first option is wrong. Let's go to the second one. Identifies that you want to see results from books that are only currently in inventory. Yeah, this is not a good description of this scenario. C, it instructs the query engine to find the books table in the inventory schema. When you see something like this, let me just show you where this knowledge is coming from at the level of the lecture materials. There's this PDF document we explored. I think that should be the second day. Database fundamentals, and we saw an interesting diagram. This is going to help you understand the interaction or the relationship between databases, schemas, and tables. Right. So a database contains schemas, and then schemas contain objects. And one of such objects is what we are currently studying, tables. Right. So we have the database is not known, but we have a books table inside an inventory schema. So book is a table which is located in the inventory schema. And it's the same thing you see in almost all of the databases we've been able to explore so far. You're going to see this nicely in the Object Explorer window. Right. So you can choose any database to explore, for example, AdventureWorks. If I go to the tables folder, you will consistently see the two-part object name as far as every table is concerned. The reference of every table carries a two-part object name. So the table name is department. If I double click on this, or if I just, let me show you the correct way to do this. If I just right click, I want to say rename the table. You see, it targets the table name, not the schema name. So the table name is department, and this department is in the human resources schema. And that's the same concept we notice when we get to the querying aspect of tables. I want to query this table, human resources or department. I'm on the right database, AdventureWorks. So if I just do select star from, I cannot just go direct and put department. I'm having a hard time to identify that because I'm in the wrong schema. With this, the system will assume DBO because DBO is the default schema. So if you call a table and you don't specify the schema, the system will automatically assume this. And if I take you back to the lecture notes, it's when we talked about schemas, you see the concept of DBO being the default schema. So DBO is created automatically in every database and is used as the default schema, right? So if you type this, the system interprets it to be this. So you're going to this database, AdventureWorks 2022, and you're going to the DBO schema. So if you look at this diagram, we access the database and we go into the DBO. Do we find department table? You don't find department. There's no department in the DBO schema. These are all objects in the DBO schema right here. So when you have the wrong schema, it's a serious problem. You will not be able to retrieve any data from that, right? If you look at what Microsoft recommends, the two-part object name, I think we have it somewhere in the notes right here. This is the full path: server name, database name, schema, and then object name, right? Moving forward, I think I just want to do it gradually, but subsequently you can actually reference this. So first of all, let me just conclude this by showing you the correct way to reference this. It's gonna be this. So this has to be replaced. It has to be human resources as a schema, and this is it right here. And it's the same thing when you drag and drop. Right, for those of you who prefer the option to drag the table, you see it automatically comes with the schema. Right, so this is very important. This is going to go through, right? Let me show you another way to do this same concept. I can connect to the database, use AdventureWorks, this, and then I proceed to do this. So this is a connection. Make sure on the right database, and then you run this. See that? This is another possibility. You can type, but this is a longer route. You can type this. You specify the name of the database first, AdventureWorks, name of database. You put a period after a database. What do you get? Schema. You follow this diagram. Once you locate the name of your database, you put a period. It takes you into the schema. You put a period. It takes you into tables. Right. So period gives you access. These are now schemas. And on this list, I can find DBO. Right. Or I can go find the human resources. This is it right here. And if I put a period right here, I get now department. So if you write further on this document, you see that concept. This is the level right here. So this is a full part. You can talk about the server, put a period, you get a database name, period, schema name, period, the table name. But since you've already referenced that, you've already disclosed the database you're working on, this part becomes redundant. So you've already declared this part becomes redundant. So you can dismiss this part. The advantage of this is if this query is found in any environment, it's still going to run. As long as you're connected to this server, open any query window, don't care about the database listed, paste this query in any window, the query is going to run because you've provided the database, it knows where to connect to, it knows the schema. So even though I'm pointing to inventory, this query is still going to run. That's the advantage of this strategy. The three-part object name, database, schema, table. Right. If you want to ignore this part, dismiss, then you have to declare the database above. See that now this is going to go through because first it will run this, and then second, you see it changes the context to AdventureWorks, preparing for this to run. Right. So I don't want to go too deep on this, but let's go back to this. I think somebody had a question. Let's go back to what is that? Yeah, this one. So this is very important. So the correct answer is C. It instructs the query engine to find books table in the inventory schema. And you can see where this concept is coming from in the PDF document. I think there was a small table right here. We talked about two other tables, one in the sales and one in the production schema. and you saw the reference. So this is a sales schema, this is a production schema. We have sales.order. You just have to understand that this is the orders table in the sales schema. So we're going to the sales schema and we're looking at the orders table. For this one, production.order, we're going to the production schema and we're targeting the order table. Yeah, this reference has to be understood, right? Any question on this?
No for me.
Okay, let me see if I have any other question that we can cover. I remember somebody asked this question when we were told to, there was a, let me just put this into context. I think we're working on the production, the products table. The products table should be on the production schema dot product. And if you look at, if we're told to bring out product ID name, that's the product name. We had this question previously, and then color. These were 3 columns we requested to pull out. But the question, I think this was from Alex, why name has the color similar to this? So this question right here is tied to that concept. So dash keywords are used by the database engine in SQL commands and should not be used as identifiers and object names in your script. Those are what we call reserved keywords, right? So all your reserved keywords will be colored. This is a reserved keyword is simply a word that has a meaning in SQL. So use is an English word, but it's a reserved word in SQL. It has a meaning. The meaning of use in SQL is to connect to a database. The meaning of the keyword select is to return columns. So the column names will be returned right here. So select is a keyword in the select statement. And the role of select in the select statement is to point to the columns you want to return. So it tells you that product ID has no meaning in SQL. It's just a table name. It's just a column name. But then this has a meaning in SQL. That's why it's colorized. So this question right here, the correct answer is reserve keywords. And as we go through the training, you're going to be seeing more colors that will be used across different reserve keywords. We're going to talk about the setting function. When we get to functions, we're going to be talking about this. This is how functions look like. This is a reserve keyword. It's a function. It just simply tells me get into today's date, current date. See, for those in Cameroon, if you run this, you're going to get the time, date and time based on your computer system or your time zone, right? But anyway, we're going to get to that. So I just want to show you that these are reserved keywords. Regular or normal words are colored black like this. Any word that has this kind of color is a reserved keyword in SQL. This is very important, reserved keywords. Right. I think, let's see which other one can we target. I think this, let me go to the bottom. I haven't sent out this document because we haven't covered a good number of the topics on this stuff. So you're gonna get this maybe around the 4th week. You should be able to have access to this document. All right, but there's some we can actually address. An example is this one. See that? This question right here, we can address it. What is the result of this query? Can somebody describe what this query is gonna do? And when you be solving this question in an exam or a certification exam, you will not have access to SQL Server Management Studio. So you're gonna just read and then you understand exactly what the outcome will be. So you have to process this without executing it. You will not have any access to Management Studio. So as a professional, as somebody who is a programmer in SQL, what outcome would this query execute and return?
I guess the first one is going to concapt or.
Okay, yes, we talked about this. Excellent. So if you look at the two materials, we did a small comparison, and it has a solid foundation on data type. So if you do 1, 2, 3 plus 1, 2, 3, we did say that this is going to be an addition operation, right? And you see, this gives you a column without no name. So if you go back to this, you saw what it did as result. So the AS keyword is used to give a name to the column. So if I run this, you see a difference. Now the column name is result, and the value in this column will be the summation of these two. It's a number, so you can sum them up, right? If I transform this into a string, strings cannot be added. You see, I'm preserving the addition sign, but this time around, I'm moving to a string environment. This and this. So if I run this, see what we're getting. See, this is a concatenation process. Right. So exactly, this is what you get. So yes, this is the correct one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Don't be tempted to go for this. All right. Okay. Any question on this? I just want to highlight some key points so that when you're studying, you can focus on them. No, we don't. There's one more we can solve right now. Yes, this one right here. Please, this thing should not confuse you. Let me try and just take your time and go over this. I want you to do it gradually. This is a question you can solve. It's about what comments. How do you comment in SQL? All right. So which option will not, you see, we're looking at the negation. Which option will not create a valid SQL comment? You have to access everything together. So we have this, 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 this. I'll give you time to go over it carefully. Don't rush to give the answer. Okay, we can give it a try. Let's start.
I would say D. Won't give a valid SQL comment.
Okay, B. Okay, yeah. Let's go. Let's start with this. I think everything looks fine on this, right? Remember, if I take you to this objective or to the lecture materials, whichever one you want to go for, that's fine. Let's talk about the lecture material. I want to show you where this particular concept is coming from. So this, you're going to find that in this PDF document for day 2. That's the concept of commenting. We saw single line comment and we saw block commenting. So for single line comment, you just have to put 2 hyphens in front of the line you want to comment. And that's just sufficient. See? So this is the concept right here. Right. So how to comment in SQL Server Management Studio. Single line comment, what to watch out, this in front of any line is going to treat that as a comment. And if you look at A, actually does exactly what is needed. Right. So let's go back. So every single one of this line has this comment symbol in front of it. So this is a valid way to comment in SQL. This is single line commenting. You see that? So this is valid. Right. Remember, we are looking at the one that is not valid. Right. So this is valid. We skip this. This one right here, it has this is basically block commenting because I spot the symbol for a block comment. This is the starting symbol for a block comment. And then this is the ending symbol for a block comment. And everything in between is considered as a comment. So if I take you to the notes, sorry, right here, that's the second one, this one. All you need to do is see this at the beginning and then see this at the end. Everything is a comment. As long as you can spot this at the start, this at the end, that's a valid comment. And this is an example right here. This is very, very important. If I go back to this right here, see, I wish I could copy this and just execute. See? So this is valid. This is an opening block comment symbol right here, closing block comment symbol right here. This is valid. I know this is trying to distract, right? But the key thing is to look at this opening block comment symbol.
But the third one as well has the same opening, doesn't it?
Yes, this one also is valid.
Oh.
This is valid. This is valid. So the goal is to spot for a line comment. You're looking at this one. It should not be at the back. This is where the mistake came in. This line is correctly commented. This one is not at all commented. This one is not correctly commented. So this is the one that will not create a valid SQL comment. Are we okay? I can go ahead and try the last one so you can see. Let me clear out everything right here. At this phase here, you can practice these things. They're going to help to drive the knowledge to enable you understanding much better. So a comment that spans multiple lines. So this is what we have. Comment that you see already. I'm spotting something that spans multiple lines. See what it did? This is not a comment. If I run this, it's going to give me an error. If you properly comment something out, it shouldn't process it. Go back to the lecture material, you'll see what we talked about at the end. A gentle reminder, comments are ignored, they are not processed. If I run the first line, this is properly commented. If I run this, you see, it is not processed, you see. Just tells you the query executed. Yeah, of course you executed the query, but what was executed, it was ignored. Why? Because the comment. The moment I remove this, I've exposed everything on this line of processing. I run it. The system is trying to interpret this from a SQL language perspective. See, it tells you, hey, this is not valid. You get an error. See, but just all you need to do, go to the start of the line. This. So I'm going to use this opportunity to assess every aspect of that question. Let's begin with this one. A comment that spans multiple lines. This was valid. All the individual lines were commented out. We have a full stop right here. So we go to this line, commented out. I want to mimic exactly what we have on that document. It's a space right here. We go to the second one. So we all agree this is valid. This is valid single line comment. And the symbol to watch for is this in front of the line. Excellent. Any question on this? This is valid. That's why we said that yeah, this is a valid SQL comment. Second option, let me go ahead and copy this and mimic the second option. We're just going to stay on this line so that you can see. So in the second option, what are we doing? We start off with a valid symbol for block commenting. I'm going to dismiss this and put this, yes, and then next. So this and this, asterisk. Also on the next line. If I stop right here, this is not a valid SQL comment. See that I get an error if I run it. A comment should not give you an error. The system should not process it. The fact that we get an error, it means that the system attempted to process it. Right, and what is missing right here is the closing symbol for the block comment. You've initiated an opening symbol right here. You have to close it right here or on the next line. So it could be right here or it could be on the next line. This is still valid. If I run this, I get an error, it's not going to process. Or you can take it to, so these are key things to watch. I want to just highlight this so that you have a close look when you're studying or looking at this concept. You see that? Are we okay? So yes, this is a valid SQL comment. So far these two are valid. Please stop me if you have a question. Let's just address this right on. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I'm just going to copy. So let's take a look at the next one. I'm just going to paste the text right there. Let's see what the next one did. And that's going to be this one. So nice job opening block comment, closing block comment. That's the key. As long as you can spot that at the very beginning and the end of the line, you're fine. The very beginning and end, you're closing them. This is a mistake you might be tempted to do. If I was setting this as an MCQ, I will mess things up. This right here, run this. That's an error. See that? You have to watch the opening symbol of a comment is this, and the closing symbol is this. This is very important. So when you're typing, just do this, go in, this. That's it. And that is the opening symbol. That is the closing symbol. Anything you type in here is a comment. So the temptation is, you see this right here, it's not valid. Right. So they can actually set these traps along the way. Watch out for MCQs. You have to be, very, very observant. So yeah, this is valid. Execute. This is a valid comment in SQL. Right. And let's go to the next one. The last one is this one. Of course, they are trying to use a line comment within the framework of a block comment. And those concepts cannot be interchanged. You see that? And that's exactly what they're trying to do right here. Trying to mimic the concept of block commenting, but using what? Line comments. And this is not valid. If you highlight this, you execute, this is the one you get an error. So the question, remember, was which option will not create a valid SQL comment? Right. You know what? I'm just going to highlight this and share and give you some time to just check out those options. Don't bother. I will give you access to this PDF document once we have, built some solid grounds on this. I don't want to show you a document that you will understand certain aspects of the question and other aspects you'll be lacking. Right. Okay, let me share this. I'll give some time to understand. Just run those block by block. Make sure you understand why this is valid. Why is this considered to be a valid comment? Why is this considered to be valid? And why is this an invalid comment? The first line is valid, single line comment. Everything on this line is considered as a comment. True, execute, that's a comment. This line is not commented by either line comment or block comment. That's an error exposure. For processing, you get an error. And the last line, so what you've studied on this is very important. For single line commenting, the comment symbol is not placed at the end of the line. No, this comment symbol should be placed at the beginning of the line for that to be a comment. This is very, very important. See, And those are little traps that you have to watch out. So like this is invalid. So if you put this together, invalid. All right. I'll give you some time to play around that. Please feel free to ask questions. I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes so we can address, just run over those four and make sure you understand what's happening. Okay, so the document we're going to use for today's lab is going to be the hands-on practice exercises we started in the last session. So I just want us to go ahead and open this document, the simple select hands-on practice. All right, let's just practice more on what we covered on Saturday. So yeah, let's go ahead and open that document. I'm just going to do file, open, file, or simple. It's a shortcut right here, this, and just navigate to the class document, business intelligence. This is module 1, week 1, day 2, and the document you're going to start with is right here. Simple select hands-on practice. We have some questions we're going to go over. I want to take you all the way to the bottom, yeah, so that we address the one that is a little bit complicated. Right. But I think before doing this, let me just open a new query window. Right. Can you all connect to Academia? Use Academia. Right. And I'm going to give you a series of exercises that we can perform together. Let's print out the student table. Let's select all records from the student table. First thing, I just want to do a simple inspection right here. I'm talking about the student table. I want to find out the schema. Student table is in the DBO schema. So once the table is in DBO, yes, you can be forgiven if you just type student. The system knows it's DBO, so this is still going to run. I just want it to be a habit. Let's keep doing the two-part object name. So this is fine. Right. Let's start with some basic stuff. Just give me student ID, first name, last name. Right. Student ID, first name, last name. And just add date of birth, date of birth. And I'm just going to put an instruction right here. So that's the query. When I run this, this is what we get. Right. I just want you to now go in and rename DOB as date of birth. So rename DOB as date of birth. I'll give you three different possibilities. So the simple one is this one. This one is just straightforward, no spacing. So this is the first one, no spacing. So this is just straightforward, no spacing. See that? And this is going to be easy. I can just take this to the next line, or I can put it on the same line. If you feel free to do it the way you want. On this is what we have so far. If I execute this, I have the column date of birth, DOB. Right? If I push this report out for end users to use, you'll keep having questions. What is DOB? What is DOB? And stuff like that. So that's why we always rely on aliasing. So you put the AS keyword, and now you can now type the name of the column. This is now playing the role of an alternate name. So the database has DOB. When I want to submit this for the end users to use, I want to change it and put it into a more descriptive name. So I'll go for this as recommended, as date of birth. So I will show you the different options. So if it's presented like this, you have no worries. This is straightforward. The biggest red flag is when you have spaces. When you have spaces in the name of the column you're trying to, the new name you're trying to put. If you have spaces, you get an error. So let's begin with a simple one. This is just the Kame methodology, where the start of every key, every word is targeted with an uppercase, uppercase, uppercase. It just helps for readability. So this is just straightforward, you see. Our DOB column has been renamed to date of birth. I'm going to stop right here. And I want you guys to type this out and understand what we're doing. Right. If you go back to the student table, go to columns, we have DOB. That is a date of birth, but it's not properly descriptive. So aliases are used to rename columns. This is a concept of an alias, an alternate name. You simply use this. So the system will now store DOB instead of DOB in your query. In the result, in the output, you're going to replace DOB with this. This is only limited to the query. See, if I remove this part, we are back to date of birth, DOB. We are back to DOB. See, it does not change the original name on the table itself. So this name is only replaced at the output level, the query output. So if I execute this, see, this is very important. Any questions? I will pause and give you time to practice this. So type out, so it's so where I started off, first of all, connected to academia, and then you can do a select star from the table, run that, and you remove the asterisk and type out these columns. So rename DOB as date of birth. And this is exactly what you do. Last time we talked about AS being optional. If you remove this, the system still understands that this is the original column and this is a name we want to give in the output. So if you run this, this is what you get. See that? But you cannot attempt, you cannot you cannot interchange the position. This gives you an error. That's why I don't like this strategy. So this reads this as this. See? But if you take out this, you're still fine. The system still understands what you're trying to do. It understands that this column will now be renamed as this. Right? So I'll always advocate for you to be explicit like this. Nicely done. Execute. You see that this is a reserved keyword because it has the same color as this one. Right. When you're done with this, copy the same stuff and we're just gonna paste it below. And this time around, we're gonna give a space in the alternative name. So rename DOB as date of birth and see what happens the moment you step in and do this. You get an error. See that? So whenever the name of your object has a space, then you will get an error. All right, so SQL is trying to discourage the habit of putting spaces in the names of objects, be it tables, columns. Avoid doing that. If you must do that, then this will be the solution. You have to go in there and put a square bracket around that. You see, as long as you're dealing with one word, you're fine. All right. When you're dealing with multiple words with a space in between, problems. See that? This is going to go through. Date is also a reserved word in SQL, but then you're just going to do that. You see, date. But that's not what we want to do. If you must use this as stated in the question with the spaces, then this is what you're going to do. You must introduce a square bracket. All right, this is very important. And if you run this, so you're telling the system that those three words put together are used to define the name of that column. So this is a very important instruction you're giving to the database engine. If not, it's going to try to isolate the words separately and see it throws an error. So the use of a square bracket is to force it, not a parenthesis. This does not work. You see that? We use that when you're dealing with operations, multiplications. I'm going to address that later on. But just to instruct the system that, hey, these three words put together define the name of that column. You must intervene by doing this. This is very, very important. See that? And I would strongly advise you, a lot of the things I'm saying are in this PDF document. Lectures 1 to 3 to 4, lectures 1 to 3. Right? You have to read, always begin from page 8. Yeah, that's what I said last time. Page 8, where the select statement actually begins. And keep reading. So next week, we're going to be using the same document. Right? So this is aliasing, changing column names, AS keyword, without the AS keyword and with equality. This is not, I don't want this. The best practice is the AS keyword. I put the best practice is this one, but I give you all the options. You see, this is without the AS keyword, right? The same like going right here and removing this, right? So please practice this. It entails a lot of practice has to be done, right? So now you understand if the name of your column has spaces in it, more than two words put together with spaces, you can suppress that error by putting a square bracket around it. You're telling the system, hey, those three words put together, they define the name of that column. So that's the purpose of the square bracket right here. And that's how the system now recognizes that it goes ahead to implement it. Right, this is very important. So I'm going to stop right here. So once you're okay with this concept, in fact, let me just, I think you've built that already. Yeah, just I want you to build your own copy. So open a new query window and build this. Please, if you have any error, just draw my attention. I'm going to connect to your screen and we can take a look at it. Please make sure you understand what is happening. Right. Okay, so I'm going to do another requirement right here. In this requirement, I want us to return student ID and we combine first and last name as full name. So retrieve student ID. And then we're going to proceed to combine first and last name. Retrieve student ID and full name. So full name by combining first and last name. Right, this is very important. Right. So I can just start the process right here. We are still on this academic database. We're going to be using the student table. Let me just do a select star from. This is dbo.student. Right here, execute. So first column we need is the student ID. So retrieve student ID, we have it right here. I'm just going to kick out the asterisk, put student ID. This is student ID. Right. We're going to return the first and the last name put together. I got a message from somebody. Okay, so today our focus is going to be this. Somebody said you've done all the exercises on the hands-on practice. Yeah, this is the focus of the lab. I just want to address a couple of things, and then we're going to go to this. Just give me a moment to address some key parts, and then we're going to move to this exercise. Right. So if I get the student ID, I want to combine first and last name. Let me just put this to the next row. Let's practice this. All right. So if you want to put first and last name, if I just call them separately, maybe that should be the first thing I do. Let's call them separately, and then we proceed to combine them. First name, and just put the last name right here. The presence of the comma puts them on separate columns. I have one question to ask right here. What happens if I remove this comma? I don't get an error. And if I run this, this is what I get. Can somebody explain what is going on right here? We have 1, 2, 3 columns. If I put a comma right here, 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, and that's exactly 3 columns I get. See, student ID, first name, last name. If I remove the comma, see what happens. I'm down to 2 columns. What happened? Can somebody explain this? The concept is right here. This is the original column, and this is the alias we are giving. So without the AS keyword, this is exactly what the system is trying to interpret. Remember when I did this, and I go to this, see, DOB, date of birth, right? If I run this, this is what I get, right? So if you don't put a comma after the column, see what happens. The system thinks that you want to rename first name as last name. And that's why when you execute this query, you get student ID and last name. But then the last name column is carrying first name's values. So this is basically what you just did. If I want to expatiate more, this is what you just did. You've renamed the first name column as last name, but the last name column is carrying the values for first name. Right, so this is it right here. So if you, let's put a comma right here. And these are little things you have to watch out. These are 3 columns and we get 3 columns. See that? So take note, Cyprian is a first name. So if you remove this, Cyprian now goes under a column called last name. It's just a renaming of the column, but the content is first name. Right. So this is very important. I just wanted to draw draw your attention to that concept. If I remove this, let's follow through now and combine first and last name. You have to initiate the plus sign right here. These are 2 separate columns. To combine the contents of the columns, we're using the plus sign. So if I run this, this is what happens. I want to stop right here. Let's do this gradually. Let me just copy this and put on the chat window. I just follow me through with this. So originally we had a comma. Since they are separate columns, we want to put each on a separate column. We requested for 3 columns and we get 3 columns. If we put nothing right here, we go to 2 columns because this will be considered as a rename of this. So last name is now being used as the alias for first name. So we have 2 columns, student ID, first name now being renamed as last name. But then when you initiate the plus, this is how you begin to pull the contents of 2 columns together. And if the 2 columns are numbers, you're going to sum the contents. See? Back to this concept. If the 2 columns are numbers, you're going to sum them. If they are strings, you're going to concatenate them, join them. And that's exactly what you're seeing right here. When you put your cursor on a column, it tells you this column is first name, varchar as a string, not mandatory column. So these are 2 strings. First and last name are 2 strings. What happens when you expose the plus sign to strings? This is what you get. So the contents of the first and the last name has been fused together into this. I want to stop right here. Please go ahead and practice this. So remove the comma between first and last name and combine it with a plus sign and execute and see the change.
When you execute it on the column, there's no it says no column name. So I think we're meant to add as full name.
Yes,
So the first name and the last name will come under a because right now you execute just that without putting as full name.
as full.
It's just
Yes,
so it's joined together, but it writes there no column name.
no column name. Excellent. So that's the next thing you can do. You can just copy the name of the new column, that's full name, and you can do like this. This is excellent. And now when you run this, you notice that the column now has a name. And the full name is a combination of what? The first and the last name. And then there's just one thing we're going to fix. We're almost hitting our target. We just have to make sure that there's a space between the first and the last name. You see, everything is fused together. And that's the last thing we're going to do to complete this exercise. I remember what we did last time. So you just introduce that space environment, right? This is not enough. You see, it's still showing an error because you've taken the first name, you've joined it with a space. you now have to take this space and join it with the last name. So we're missing a plus right here. And that's how this thing, clears up and the syntax is now valid. So it's very easy. Take the first name, join it with a space, and take the space and then join it with the last name. So all these three things are now joined together. We have three components right here. One is driven by column, that's first name. This is just statics, just a space. And the last one is the last name. Now these three things put together, they run to this. You see, this is very, very important. And please always avoid to do anything on your column. For example, doing something like this on your column. Remember, this is a verbatim environment. If you do this, you're just telling the system, hey, print first name. So if you run this, that's a verbatim environment. It's going to print that word first name. It's no longer a column. See how you've messed up this. So avoid doing anything on your column, like putting in that string environment. You see, this name has to be preserved. That's a column name, right? So we are coding this at the level of the columns, but when we execute the query, it will be implemented at the level of the values. I think by now you understand this concept. So your select statement is built on the columns, but when you execute them, you're calling these columns with a certain logic you've built in. And when you call these columns, they're going to show up with their content, and the content of a column, that's the values in it. See that? Even you see the logic right here. Take the first name, combine it to a space, and then also combine it to the last name. So three things we are combining together: first name, space, last name, and hit our target. See? And whatever you type in that environment, I keep saying this is a verbatim environment. Whatever you type in it, it will print it out undistorted. See that? This is very, very important. Right? If you put a dot right here, all right, this is what you get. Right? I really want you guys to practice this. So we need a space like this. So this is what we get. Okay, so let me give you some time to try this out. So while you're trying that out, I'm going to put a next requirement. So let's generate. So let's generate emails of students. Let's assume that all the students are students of maybe the University of Boya. So we have, and the email format is as follows: generate emails of students with the following format. So for the emails of students, we're going to combine first name dot last name at ub.com, right, with the following format. So they're going to give you the format, and it's simply first name. So for this person right here, I'm just going to copy this name and just put it right here. So it's going to be first name dot last name ub.com. So I've just taken one of the students and I've come up with this format. And you just have to understand that the format takes the first name dot the last name ub.com. See that? And this is very easy to build. So what is column driven and what is static? So everyone is going to have this part. So this is not something you're going to fetch it from any column. See, that's just a hard coded stuff, right? So this is a point where we are now trying to distinguish the things we're going to pull from a column and those we're going to pull as hard coded, right? So every student will, where can we trace the first name? We have a column for that, right? So you just have to tie this to a column first name. This is not coming from a column. This is static stuff. We're just going to put in that verbatim environment. This is the last name, which is going to come from the last name column. And then this is not coming from any column, and everyone will have that. That's fixed, static. And all those static things, you can just put them in that verbatim environment. So how many things we have to combine together? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. So if we get to work, we just need the first name, call of your first name, I'm just going to go ahead and initiate this plus. So I'm right here. The plus, I'm going to bring this environment, and the only thing we need in this environment is this. See that? That's all. I'm right here. So when you call the first name, you're going to get the first names right here. We're now going to combine those first names with this. This is going to be common for every student because it follows the email format. And this is it right here. And then the next thing we're going to do is call the last name column. Right. So we need a plus sign now to connect that to the last name, which is this part. So we are now right here. Right. And then finally, we need this. Right. So I'm going to introduce the plus. You have to join it to this, and we just simply have to dump this inside. See that? This is very, very important. So I want you, if you first of all begin by identifying the aspects of the string that are column driven. This will be plucked from the column. You see, every student, the students have different first names. So you have to use something that is dynamic, and that's a column. You see, this first name is this one comes in this, you see, it keeps changing, you see. That's why we are putting the column name right here. This is always going to be the same for every student, so we can hard code that one. Verbatim environment, just put it right there. The last name is going to keep changing. The students have different last names, so we have the column for that. And then finally, this part is going to be the same for everyone. And see the beauty you get when you run this. You see that we've built that email column following that format. And just like what, let's say last time, you see we have for the column name is missing. We can now call this as email. And if I run this, see what we're getting. Let me share this with everyone. I'll give you some time to go over that. Please, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. Right. This thing is built gradually. You have to understand exactly what we're doing right here. And you saw we fetch the concepts we can get from a column. We make sure we indicate the column. All right, these are first name. It's coming from the first name column. This is not column driven. It's just a static. We put in that static environment. And this right here is the last name. It's coming. It's going to fetch that from the last name column. And finally, this is going to be static. Same for everyone. You just put that in that static environment. And when you combine all of them, you're combining all of these strings together. If you execute this, this is what you get. This is very, very important. I will pause here for a couple of minutes. Please go ahead and type this out, try this out. And if you have any challenges, feel free to let me know. I'm going to come to your screen and we can fix the error together. Right, this is really important. I want you to type this out yourself. This is a practice session. Let's type this out. Execute. If you have any challenges, any errors on the code, feel free. Let's fix that together. Right. I really want you to understand what is the role of this. See, every single thing you've typed out, you have to understand what is happening. What happens if I drop this part? Right. Of course, you understand that this part is going to go away. And that's how you study. That's how you understand these concepts. Right. This is very, very important. What happens if I type that without this environment? Right. This is a string. Every string has to be typed in that environment. The reason why we don't type column names in that string environment, those are column names, right? So this one right here, it has to be typed in that environment. And that's how the system is going to print it just the way it is written. Run this. So when you're practicing, you can try to modify it. Whatever comes to mind, just try to implement it and see if it works or it fails. And that's how you learn, right? Okay, so I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes. I really want you guys to type this out, right? Execute. If you have any errors, let me know. If you have any further clarifications you need, just let me know. Okay, any question on this? Okay, I want us to save this. We're just going to save this on the lab folder. So save. Oh, an easy way to save this is a button right here. Just click on save. This is what this is building expressions. So building expressions in SQL, right? And we're going to put this in the lab folder for week 1. So week 1 lab, we're going to start that. So this is building expressions in SQL. And if we look at this, is here we're combining first and last name, and here we're building this expression, which that's the email. Right? We're going to see more of this kind of concepts. Right? Okay, if there's no question, we can now go and target this hands-on practice questions. We started working on this on Sunday. All right, I'm just going to go over them. Yes, maybe let me target from the bottom. Okay, anyway, let's just go over the questions. So the first one, use AdventureWorks database. Write a select statement that lists the customers along with their ID numbers. I think somebody solved this in class, so we can just go over it one more time. So these are just simple select statements. There are specific columns. So the goal right here is identify the database. That's always the beginning. Right. I just want this to be a workflow that you can stick to. Always identify the database and connect to it. And then next, read the question, identify the table. This question is talking about customers, and there is a customer table in the database. And of course, for you to pull up the customers table, you need to understand the schema to which that table is attached to. So if I go to the database, this is very important information. Customers is right here. So that's why we are using the sales LT schema. And if you miss this part or you put the wrong schema, you get an error. So this is very important, right? And you cannot go asking your manager to what schema is the customer table located. If the information is right here, you can always find that information. So this is the correct schema, and this is what you get. And then from there, you can kick out the asterisk and just type the specific columns that were requested. See, right? So every single one of the questions we're going to be solving, they have this. This is the workflow. So read the question, identify the database, move the database, connect to it. Now read through the question. You're told to use the theme table. All right, do a select star from the theme table, and then go back and identify the specific columns that were requested. And this question, these are the columns that were requested. Columns go to the select clause, and these columns are not coming from space. They are based on a table. The system wants you to specify the table, and of course the schema as well. All right, and that's it. Execute. All right. So please let me know if you have any questions on what we just covered. I think those two were done in class. And for the third one, this one right here, we are using AdventureWorks LT 2022. And you see exactly, this is it. Identify the database, write a query to connect to it, write a select statement that lists the name, product number, and color of each product from the product table. Very important, the name of the table is known, is declared in the question. What will be your next target? What schema is hosting that table? And of course, to the database, you can go now to your Object Explorer. The database of interest is still this one. Tables, we are looking at the products. Product is right here. Sales LT product. This is it. And that's the requested columns. Name, product number, color. I think I did say that if you see a null on the value of any column, it means that that particular product or that particular product is missing color. So null is a symbol to represent missing information. Right? I will come back to that concept. Right? We're going to see more of that. Right? So those products with no color or missing color, you see null right there. Right? Okay. And the next one, use AdventureWorks 2022. So this is very important. Once you read the question like that, just stop right there and write a query to connect to it. I have an error right here. Let me just go ahead and type the actual name, AdventureWorks 2022. Execute. So I did put an S right here, which was not supposed to be there. Right. So execute this. So my goal is just to expose you to repeat those steps again. Right. So that when you have a question in front of you, you know exactly what to do, the steps to follow, so as to get the right outcome. Right. Now you read the question, we are targeting the table, write a query that returns department ID, name, group name, and modified date from department table. Right. I cannot just go in and just type select star from DBO. Right. Don't always assume DBO. Right. We know we are dealing with a department table. I don't just want to assume DBO or the department. I actually want to go to the database. This is AdventureWorks 2022. right? And I will investigate what schema is hosting the departments table. We know the table, but we're not sure about the schema. So this is the database right here. I'm just going to go in there, go to tables, and I will find it right here. So now I understand the department table is in the human resources schema. You can just drag and drop, and I proceed to execute that. So all the columns are right here, but which ones do you need for this particular question? We need department ID. So I'm just going to go right here, remove the asterisk, and start typing my department ID. That's the first column. The next one is a name, which is this one. See, it makes your work very easy. The group name, which is this, and the modified date. That's it. That's the end of that question. So these are all the columns that were requested. Just go ahead and execute, and this is it. So we did not do this in the last session. I'm just going to stop right here. So please make sure you compare what I just did right here with your own solution. If there are any errors, make sure you just go ahead and fix that. But you have to understand what was needed to be done right here. I think this was a simple and straightforward question. So from the second week, we're going to be looking at the where clause. I'll start adding the where clause, which will carry a condition. Right, maybe give me a list of departments with the following department ID, and I give you the list. You see, so in this one, we're just giving all the departments. If I run this, every single row qualifies. There are 16 departments. You see, what if I just want you to give me the engineering department? So these are the kind of things I'm going to be looking at this weekend. Right, I don't want all the departments. I just want the engineering department. I can tell you to give me the departments which begin with the letter P. See, or departments that end with the letter S. See, or I tell you departments that were modified on a particular date, and I give you the date. You search. See, so those are conditions. We're going to address that. Right. So for the first week, I wanted to keep it simple so that when we get to the second week, we start addressing those key concepts, and you can see your knowledge grows. You see, this is very important. Right. So please make sure you practice this. Make sure you understand the objectives of the first week. So that as we move to the second week, our focus will be on the where clause. Start adding the where clause to this. And we keep building. Right. Okay. And also what we just did today, this building expressions, you see how we combine these columns. It's something to also practice. Any question? Okay, so the next one, this question 5, is about the global superstore. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do. We know the database connect to it. So global superstore is the database we're going to be analyzing for this question. And let me just make sure I'm connected to it. And I'm going to read the question and identify the table. So write a query that returns customer ID, customer name, order date, ship mode, ship date, and shipping costs from the orders table. Right, so I can go to the database. I want to know where this table is located, what schema is hosting that table. Right, so this is Global Superstore right here, tables, and our focus is the orders table. So that's in the DBO schema. Excellent. So now you're confident in what you're doing. You see, this is very, very important. This is a workflow I want you to adopt. Right, orders table. Now run this query and see the content of that table. Right, and if you go back to the question, you can identify the columns that were being requested. Customer ID, you know exactly what you're targeting. This is customer ID right here. And that will be our first column. I'm just going to kick out the asterisk customer ID. As you're typing, just watch out, it's going to show up. You see, as long as you have this part activated, any column you type, it's going to show up. All right. And you have to understand why the system has placed this in square brackets. We've addressed this today. If you type custom ID, it's a column that has a space. There are two separate words. Immediately you type, double click on that, the system understands this and puts the square bracket. If you go ahead and dismiss the square bracket, you're exposing that column for an error. You see, names are not supposed to have spaces. If they do have spaces, then you must use a square bracket around them. This is very, very important. All right, this is an excellent demonstration of that concept. The moment you just double click on this, the system understands it, imposes a square bracket right there. All right, and you may think, hey, no, I don't want a square bracket. You don't have a choice. It has to be there. You see, this is very, very important. You see that if you stop right here and execute this, you get an error. Right. So this is something very, very important. I think we've addressed that in building expressions. Talked about it right here. Date of birth. See, if your manager wants the spaces to be there, then this will be your intervention. You have to tell the system, hey, the three words you see right here put together, they define the name of that column. The two words right here put together define the name of that column. And how do you force that understanding on the database engine? It's the square bracket. This is very important. Customer name, I think, is the same thing. Customer name. See right here, it's a two words with a space in between. The moment you double click on that, the system understands. You see, it just immediately puts it in a square bracket. Please don't think this is an error and you try to dismiss it. No, you now expose yourself to an error. You see, right? So this is very important. Right? I really want you guys to practice this and understand this. This is a very solid foundation we're laying down, because we're gonna, when you have this solid understanding of the concepts, subsequently things are just going to fall in place. See that customer name, same thing. You can see most of these columns names have spaces. It's the same thing with the order date. This is the order date with the space. Right, if I put a comma and call order date, immediately it comes in with a square bracket. Right, things like market, the square bracket is not needed around market. Ship mode, these are two words put together with a space. Where ship mode is right here. See that? So the same, I can just put my comma right here and take it to the next line. I don't want to type all in this. You can type everything on the same line. It's not an error. Right. So ship mode, same thing. Right. Next, ship date, same thing. The spaces, so those square brackets are mandatory. Ship date right here. Immediately you see the square bracket. The shipping cost, I think that's the last column you're going to print out. It's the same. It has a space. So when you type that and you see it on the IntelliSense feature, just pull it up. So every one of these columns, they have that. If I go ahead and just add market is not going to come up with a square bracket. It's just a single word which defines that column. Right. So the square brackets are mandatory when you have two or more words put together to define a column of which there are spaces in between. This is very, very important concept you have to understand. So any attempt to get rid of these square brackets on any of these column names, you're exposing yourself error. You get an error right there. Right, this is very important. Please practice this and understand them. Right. I want to stop right here and give you time to type this out and practice. So question 5, this is highlighting a very important concept. If your column names have spaces, two or more words put together with spaces in between, you must always make sure that the square brackets are around the column name. This is very, very important. As you type, make sure you click on the save button to save your code. And we're also going to make sure you save this copy in week 1 lab. This is something we did. So I'm going to save anyway at the end, or you can do it right now. So save as. So you will use this file save as option when you want to save the same document on a different location. Because if I click right here, it's going to save in the original location. If I want to change the location, go to File, Save As. You see now the system will navigate and help you to change the direction or the location of the file. So we want to put this now in week 1 lab. So this is a concept we covered in week 1. Something we started in week 1, day 2. We've extended it to week 1 lab. So simple, select hands-on practice. We're now going to save a copy of it on the lab folder. Please ask any question if you have doubts, so we can just clarify this week 1 concepts. Next week or this weekend, we're going to have a new list of requirements that we're going to go over. Right.
For those who already did it and save it in week 1, day 2, do we need to save it in lab?
That's fine. You can just leave it in week 1, day 2. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at 6. So same thing is still based on the global superstore thing. All of these questions, the last ones, yeah, these are all global superstore. So use global superstore, right? And yeah, it's connected. I'm just going to put it for documentation purpose. So we are targeting, I think, same table is the orders table. And from our knowledge above, we know that that's in the DBO schema. I'm just going to type this DBO dot orders. So CEO would like to know the location details of each customer. We'll talk about location details. The columns you're targeting are things like market, region, country, state, city. And we should do that by adding this customer ID and customer name. Those are columns that can be used to identify the customers. So customer information together with customer location, that's the target. Yep, and that's the same thing, right? Just start typing this customer ID, same 2 words put together with a space. The square bracket is a must. Same thing on customer name, 2 words put together with a space. Square bracket is a must. Those are customer information. Let's get now the customer location detail information. First, we look at the market. Market, this is just 1 word that defines that column. There's no need for a square bracket. If you want to put it, it's still fine. If you don't want to put it, it's still fine. There's no penalty for this. See, right? So if you want to put it, that's still fine. If you want to dismiss it, right? But you know the ones that are mandatory, the ones that have a space, right? Region. So what region is this the customer's base in? What country? What state? So state is a reserved keyword in SQL. It has a meaning. So see how it's presented, just like name. And the next one is city. So you can see that city is not a reserve. Okay, and this is it. Just go ahead and run this. Right. So beginning this weekend, I'll be looking at give me a list of all customers that are based in, for example, Africa. And all you need to do is just understand that Africa is a value which is containing what column is containing a column called region, and that's how you're going to build this condition. So where region equal Africa, this will give you a list of all customers based in Africa. Africa is a value. Region is a column. There are differences in the way you present them. Values are presented like this. This is very, very important. So these are the kind of concepts you're going to be building this weekend. And you're going to have a lot of fun on this. This is very important. So this is a step further. We are dealing with just a simple select. I would start taking you to this weekend. And when I run this is a condition. Only customers who are based in the region of Africa. This is the total number of customers in the database. How many are from Africa? See, it's down to this. See, and if you go to this column, everything should point to Africa. See that? So this is just to give you a heads up on the kind of concepts we're going to be covering this weekend. This is what we call a condition in SQL. Only rows that fulfill that condition will be returned. This is very, very important. All right, so let me dismiss this one for now. This was just to show you kind of focus we're going to do this coming weekend. All right, so now we are not restricting any rows, any customers. We are requesting all the customers, and these are the specific information we are requesting for the customers. See that? Any question on this? So my focus on all of this exercise is just the workflow. Read the question, identify database, connect to it. Read, identify the table, do a select star from the table, execute, have the table printed in front of you, go back and now identify the specific columns that were requested. That is the workflow. That's the focus of this week. Right. Week 2, we're going to come in with conditions. Right. Okay, so this same thing, we are using the global superstore, right, to connect. In this, I just want to repeat this over and over and understand the workflow. Right. And then next, read, identify the table. It's still going to be the orders table. This is what we've been processing. And the more you work on these databases, the more you get to understand the tables, you know, the schemas to which they're located. Right. Okay. So what is the focus on this one? The sales manager will like to know the order details of each customer. So in the order details, we are looking at things like the order ID, order date, the order priority, and the quantity ordered. And all of this information, you can find them on that table. So let's begin with customers information, things that can be used to identify customers. Okay, customer name, right, which is right here, and every other thing will be those other informations. Right. So customer ID, let's pull up the customer name, and every other thing it's gonna be. So you can type all of this on the same line. That's still fine. Order ID, order date. So let's do this. Order ID. These are all columns that have space, so the square bracket is a must. Order ID, order date, square bracket is a must. The order priority, square bracket is a must. And then the quantity, this is the last column for this. Quantity, how many quantity did the customer place in the order? See that? And that's all the information we need. We are showing all the customers. No customer has been kicked out in this analysis because there's no condition. If I want to see customers who have placed more than 10 orders, see, that concept will be addressed by this condition where quantity, see, that's the column that is tracking the number of orders placed, quantity greater than 10. So we have 51,290 customers. How many of these customers have placed orders strictly greater than 10? See, we are down to 601 customers. You see, so these are the kind of things we're going to be doing this weekend. All right, so please make sure you practice this segment very well, and also go to the material. You have this material, read ahead so as to expose yourself to the things we're going to be doing, and limiting or filtering. And that's the concept of the where clause, and this is the structure right here. Every condition will carry a column, a certain operator, and a certain value. Right. So the value right here is 10, and the column is this, and the operator is this. This is going to keep changing based on the equation. Right. Again, let me just remove this. We are back to all the values in that table. No one is kicked out. You see that? Right. So this is very, very important. So you make sure you're up to date with the focus of this week, so as to prepare yourself for the additional concepts that are going to come in. Right. Okay, this is the last question. I think we solved this. I'm just going to repeat it again. We solved this question, but I think I'll have to repeat it again. Right. So this is a common practice in businesses. They give you their calculations, give you their formula, and they want you to incorporate it in the analysis you're doing. So this is sales manager has provided you with the calculation below. Right. We don't have a column called profit margin. They want to track down profit margin. And profit margin is computed using the profit and the sales. And we just transform that calculation as a percentage by multiplying by 100. So there's a profit margin, you see. Right, but profit margin is not available in the table. You see, if we go to the orders table and explore it, select star from dbo.orders, run this. There's nothing like profit margin. But then we have the two things that are necessary for profit margin to be computed. We have the profit and we have the sales. And that's it. You just have to go ahead and apply this calculation. See that? This is very, very important. Right? And parentheses are very, very important when it comes to calculations. Right? You don't want to do a calculation and get an unintended result. Let me show you something. If you take 100 divided by 5 multiplied by 2, right? And I go right here and do the same, but then I help the system to understand that. So these two are different. This is very, very important. Let me do some. Let me change something right here. If I just go ahead and put maybe something like this +1. And I also do like this. But then I introduce the parentheses and help the system. I'm trying to control the order of the operation. I think there's something in primary school called BODMAS, bracket of multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, addition, subtraction. Those things, they help you to know the order of operation, which one comes first. So when you put this parenthesis, it helps. If you want all of this to be done before going to multiply with this, yes, that's exactly what you do. It will target what is in the parenthesis, compute it, and then I'll proceed to do this. So those parentheses will help you, to implement the full logic. If not, the database will interpret it in its own way. So this is how you're supposed to do calculation. But if you submit it like this, it will we have two different outcomes. So this is very, very important, right? So the use of those parentheses will help you to control the execution order of the calculation. That's what will guide the system. Okay, I have to first of all make sure I do this by this, and then I multiply by that. Don't take sales and multiply by this, and then, you see. All right, so this is very, very important. Some of them will evaluate the same, but you don't want to, expose your calculation to some unintended consequences. That's why it's always useful to have those parentheses to guide the order in which the calculation will be executed, so that you have the correct answer. So let's write a query which returns the order ID. So we're starting with order ID. Order ID. I'm going to put a comma right here. The order date. So again, this is not new. These are columns that have spaces in the name. So the square bracket is mandatory. Right. Let's call the profit. Profit is just single name. We don't need a square bracket. You can put it if you want. It's not mandatory. And sales. And then now we're going to compute a new column called profit margin. And this is the logic right here. Just copy that and put it right here and execute. So we are simply taking the profit, this divide by this, and multiply by 100. And that's the answer right there. Right. And of course, that column has no name, as you can see in the output. That's what the business is calling profit margin. So you can now simply go copy that and put it in the alias. Again, this is exactly what we've been explaining. This is the name of the column. These two words are supposed to be put together to define the name of the column. If you leave it like that, you're going to have an error. Right. So it's very important to tell the system here, these two words put together define the name of that column. Right. If you don't have a space in between, yeah, you're fine. I close down the space, I'm fine. See, this works. But if the manager wants you to have a space in name, just like what they've been doing for other ID, other date, so it's just consistency. This space will give you an error. Right. I really want you guys to understand this. You have to put this right here and execute. Okay. So this right here is very important. Okay, we have 15 minutes to go. I'm just going to add one question to this. Right. Let's go back to let's use the human resource database. We have a human resource database. So I want to use something that has to do with salary. And then I want you to implement a 10% increase in salary. So use human resource. So the CEO there's an increase in salary. The reason I'm using this is because I think the table has a segment for employee salary. I think, yeah. So if I go to human resources, take note, this is the database we have right here. Human resources, this is it. And if you go to the tables, we have employees, employee detail, that's a table name. So we're going to be using that table. It's a simple stuff right here. So if you work with a company and they announce a 10% increase in salary, I want you to use that business logic and return the new salary of the employees. So let's do a 10% increment in salary. So 10% increment in salary. So what will be the new salary if you do a 10% increase in salary? Can somebody help me with that calculation? So let's just get the employee ID. Employee ID. Let's get the first name, last name, and then we just dive to the calculation. First name, last name. This first name, last name. I'm just going to put the salary right here. This is the old salary. Let's do the calculation for the 10% increment. Somebody help us with this. So if this person is making this amount, what will be their new salary in the 10% increment? How do you calculate that? So first of all, you have to, what is 10%? So you have to take the original salary, which is this, multiply by 10%. And 10%, that's 0.1. I don't want to go ahead and do something like this. It's 10%, that's 10 divided by 100. Some people will do this, but then this is just 0.1. So you can just simplify that. Right, so this is salary multiplied by, that's a 10%. This right here is not the final. Almost every batch I've given this question, these students always propose this as a final solution. And this is really strange in the sense that the new salary is smaller than the original one. So this is what? This is the amount by which the salary will increase. This is not the final salary. So you have to now take this and you add it to the salary. That's how you calculate an increment. Right. For a decrease in salary, it will be the original salary minus that amount. I want you guys to sit back and look at this. So this will be an increment. If it was a 10% decrease in salary, this will be a deduction. See, this is the increment on the salary. So for an increment, this is the factor or the amount that will be added to the salary. And this is how you're going to perform that calculation. You see, a 10% decrease in salary will be a deduction. And this is it. All right. So this person was making this 10% decrease. You see, the salary went down by 10%. Making this, you see. Now, if I switch this to a plus, of course, that's the increment. And this is now a new target. Are we okay? I don't know if this is understood. So this right here is the new salary. Okay, any question? Yeah, I think we're going to end the class right here. Any question before we go? So let me just complete it. This is 10% increment. This is a 10% decrease, just so that we have the concept understood. So 10% decrease in salary, it's going to be a deduction. And so this is how you're going to code it. This is going to be a deduction. So we are deducting this amount from the original salary. And this is how that process will be computed. Right. So I'm just going to copy this part and share with you on the chat window. Just add that to the script and make sure you save it. Right. Okay, guys, we're gonna stop right here. Okay, see you on Saturday. We're gonna start looking at the where clause. Please feel free to send me a message on the WhatsApp group if you have any challenges on the concepts we've covered in week 1 while you're studying. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay, bye. Yeah.